Hi, Joe Cerrone.
Hey, Alan Rosen.
Welcome to CAD 136, Advanced AutoCAD for Interior Design, and our weekly Zoom classroom meeting. Alrighty, so we're running our Zoom classroom meeting, and we run these meetings every Thursday at 9:30. If we look at our upcoming events, Module 4 is due on Sunday, and then Module 5. We've pushed this back a little bit because of the Easter holiday. Typically we have them do the projects due on Sunday evenings at 11:59, but we've pushed this back to Friday the 14th for Module 5. And Module 6 is also in the D2L for those of you who may want to work ahead. And so we're programming out the course so that everybody knows what needs to get done. If we go to the content area, Module 4 is this project where we're going to model a couch and then a table and a lamp. And in Module 3 we modeled the couch, and so in Module 4 we'll model the table and the lamp. Some of the dimensions per the textbook instructions require scaling and reading those dimensions with an architectural scale, so we've put that link into the D2L content. Here's our instruction sheet. And so as we look at the textbook that we use for CAD 134 in previous courses, we draw a solid model of a lamp table, and they don't give you this dimension right here. They don't give you a lot of the dimensions actually. And so what I've done is I went through and created a drawing with dimensions from some of our previous work. And so the top of the table is 2 feet. And then as we look at some of these other dimensions, the height is about 3 feet. And if we look at the dimensions that I have versus the textbook, I have changed them slightly just for the sake of being able to have some artistic freedom with the design of the table. And students can do that as well. We want the basic furniture design with dimensions, but we also wanted to give students some flexibility as far as the design. This looks kind of retro. You were talking a little bit, Al, about maybe doing some other things with the legs.
Right. I'm just looking at it as a person that you are designing things for. And I would say, look at it and say, I might want to put 5 legs on here. Why, you ask? Well, stability. So they won't possibly tip over. At least I know it's not the old 1920, 1930 look, but it's better for you. Or you might change how the shape of the leg is. You might want it larger, longer, wider, or top wide, more diameter instead of 2 feet. You might want to say it's going to be 3 feet because you want more things on top of it. Use your creativity. Think about it. Open
Right.
your mind.
And I think that's the area. We want to be able to model things. Like for example, somebody might say, hey, this should be a pub table. Let's just put a big flat disc on the bottom here. And it would look a different style as we start to work within that. And so if we come back here to D2L, the instructions per the textbook are to be able to scale these off, but they didn't give us the dimensions for these little features like the leg and things like that. And so we went through and gave you some basic general dimensions. And when we create architectural dimensions, we try to keep them within a specific unit, like inches and quarters of an inch, and maybe a fraction of like an eighth of an inch. But when you work with craftsmen and people who produce these things, then we want to work with standard type dimensions where we're working with sizes that people can easily interpret and create the parts for. And so this is in the D2L section here. If we come back here to D2L, here's the instructions for the table. And we'll use revolve for the pedestal. And then these other components I've created the videos for sort of like we talked about, where it's like 2.5D. We work in 2D, we extrude things, we apply thicknesses, and then we assemble them in 3D. And then there's also a lamp that goes on the table, and this would be considered an advanced project, perfect for our class, with the dimensions of the lamp. And again, you know, they didn't give you all the dimensions like this arc here and things like that, so you can use some of your artistic freedom on that to create a lamp that you feel would be appropriate for your table and couch. If we take a look at the Module 4 content, we want everything to be on a title block and to be assembled, and so we'll be working with the user coordinate system to do that. Here's the entire chapter from the textbook, and then here's that table with the solid models that I just showed with some of the dimensions. If you don't have your architectural scale, you can work from that model, or at least from that PDF, because we didn't give you the CAD geometry. And then here's the video. If we look at part 1, Module 4, CAD 136. And so we'll take you through this project and the dimensions and measurements that we use to create it. Remember, we always kind of start off with the same drafting settings: snap and grid, polar tracking, object snap, object tracking, and 3DO snap. And then as we progress through, we create the two-dimensional geometry. I was going back and forth from one of my models from when we did this before to grab some of the dimensions. Here's the center of the table, and we'll create a three-dimensional shape using a revolve function. And we talk a little bit about the importance of creating boundary shapes. Remember, to make solid models, we need closed boundary shapes. And so this is showing what happens if we don't have one as a surface, which visually looks okay, but from a standpoint of prototyping or making things with modern manufacturing like computer-controlled routers, we would want solid models. And so we go through and we create the 2D geometry, we make a region out of the part, and then when we revolve it, we'll be able to revolve that as a solid. So we use the revolve command, specify the axis of revolution, and we revolve that. And like we said, we didn't put all the little features on it, like the radii that have sort of an embossment on that, and you're welcome to use that and work off of that per your own designs. And then we modeled the foot of the table. Again, we model things two-dimensionally. I created a red box around it to kind of give me some parameters for sizes. As I was working with the table, the dimensions are kind of difficult to read, but I wanted them to be within some standard sizes. And so we created this with lines and splines within the boundary shapes and the dimensions from the textbook. And then we extruded that. And then we made another video back in D2L for the 3D component and assembly. And so here's our teacher video to assemble those. And so we take the solids that we created in our 2.5 to 3D technique, and then we start working. Again, we set up our drafting settings, and then we'll use commands like rotate 3D. We'll use the 3D gizmo and the 3D move commands to start to navigate around in 3D space, because as you start to work with CAD, it's almost like working in space, where things will fly apart. There's no gravity. And so you have to pick them up and move them by known locations, which is what we use the O-snaps for. And so as we start to work with putting things together, we're always going to be gliding through and using these different object snaps and object tracking. And so we'll take that part, 3D rotate it after we've extruded it, and then we'll move it using midpoint to a quadrant. And then as an experienced design engineer, you'll notice that it doesn't quite match up. It's just kind of touching it. And so we use 3D Move to actually insert that into the column. Of the table. And then once we have that inserted or moved slightly, the model will work much better. And so we'll put the tabletop on it, we'll array the legs, and again we try to work off of the XY axis, and then as we move into more advanced commands, we'll assemble that table. And it's pretty straightforward. Put it onto a title block, lock in a scale, update the title block with the proper information, and that component is completed. Back to the module 4, back to the teacher videos and instructions. And then lastly, we have a solid model of a lamp. And as we were showing before, the lamp is in the PDF of the textbook. And as we work with this, looks like my video is queued up a little up ahead, but here's our basic dimensions for the lamp. And I do have a habit of sometimes taking PDFs and inserting them into the AutoCAD space just to keep things proportional when I went through and created the lamp. It's a neat technique. You don't have to use it. But if you are interested, I demo that in the tape, the videotape, and it's a great way to be able to take things from the internet and then be able to create the models. Again, we use the revolve command here, and so create a boundary shape, and then we'll revolve it, specify our axes. We'll go full 360 as a solid model, and then we'll use our 3D Move and 3D Rotate commands. And you're welcome to add other accoutrements to the design if you'd like to. Put a light bulb in there. And that's what's nice about AutoCAD. It has a full range of visual effects like animation and rendering, so that you can make things that look as real as they do in real life. You can make things so realistic that people won't know if they're computer generated or if they're pictures of actual objects. And so that's our lamp, and that's the video for the lamp. Back to the main splash page, back to module 4, and that's basically it for module 4. We create the components, we assemble them, and then we put them onto a title block. And then looking to the future, if we take a look at module 5, module 5 will be this chairs. It almost looks to me like an office, like a waiting room, where you could sit down and wait for your appointment. The dimensions are given here in the PDF, but we also have those again from the textbook. chapter 13, and this is the project. Um, I have the figure number, I don't have the project number, but I think, let's see if it's there. But I'm sure we can find that in chapter 13. Again, they'll use an architectural scale, but they really give you the dimensions here for the chair. So it's 27 inches by 30 inches. Everything kind of lines up to the same dimensions, and it's got a nice clean look to it. And so this would be our next assignment, and we'll create a video for that. But this one is not due until the 14th of April. And then as we look down the road to May or late April, we'll have one larger project where we will model from a floor plan either a cabin or a bank, and we'll make videos for these, and so we can take the area like the teller area here and model the area where people come into the commercial bank for taking out their funds or putting money into the bank, and there's a vault here, and we can go through and create three-dimensional aspects. We'll do it in a room by room aspect. You're welcome to do the entire floor plan and things like that, but our plan at this point is to pick like the lobby area here or the kitchen and the elevation for that. And so as we progress through the course, we're continuing to work on these skills for advanced AutoCAD, working very good with the dimension applications and standardizations. We want you to use title blocks. We want you to be able to put those viewports in at scale and be able to set up good quality drawings so that if you're interested in working in the field or upgrading your skills, you have employable skills. Remember too that we have additional support. Let me see if I can find that, Al. Just so that everybody knows, we just continue to tell you students are coming in now. Al, you want to do this part?
Most of it. Thank you very much. We're there on Wednesdays from 9 o'clock in the morning until 12:30 p.m. in room 131. If we're not in 131, we're right next door in 132 or 130, connecting rooms. On Thursday, we're there from 2 o'clock, that's today, until 6 o'clock at night in the same location. On Friday, we're in Zoom meetings at 8:30 until 10:30. If you can't make those times, please let us know. Our emails are at the bottom right there. And on Sunday, we're there from 8:30 in the morning until 1 p.m. in Skokie room P132. It's the joining room just to the right of it.
That's right. So give us a heads up if you're coming. Just email Al and myself and let us know, hey, Joe, we want to stop by on Thursday afternoon and do some work in CAD systems, and we'd be happy to assist you with that. Or if you want a virtual appointment, you can schedule that as well. Alrighty, with that, I'm going to stop the recording, post it, and open things up for questions.